Hello everybody, I'm that one Scot. I want to start off by saying I am actually sorry for the length of this video. I didn't intend for it to go as long as it did, but it did. So it wasn't intentional, but if you can get to the last 8 to 10 minutes of this video, it will be worth your time. Second of all, there are some slight corrections I would like to make, but I don't have the time to make them here. I might do a separate video explaining what those corrections are, but if you see them, and that's fine. And third of all, in spite of my difference of opinion with Lauren Chen in this video, I don't have any dislike, ill will or hatred towards her, so don't mistake the two or confuse the two. And with that all being said, let's just get to the video. Hello everybody, I'm that one Scot, and in this video I'm going to be doing something slightly different to what I've been doing, and all will be explained after the intro. Well, you'll probably notice that the intro was slightly different now. That's because this is going to be more the opinion piece driven thing. However, it's going to be done in maybe mostly reaction style because I've still not decided how I'm going to edit this thing yet. But this video caught my attention in my YouTube video thing in the beginning. When you first click into YouTube and it goes through the thing, this turned up, and the reason I was so curious about it was because of the title. It's titled Women Love Psychos, Stalkers and Romance, episode 151. I should say, this is Lauren Chen. She's a conservative political commentator, as she sells herself. I'm not saying she doesn't know that, I'm saying that's how she sells herself. For anybody who's watching this, understand something. I tend to try and listen to both sides of the political spectrum to get a sense of what each person's kind of like, what each side's kind of mostly invested in and what the beliefs are, type of thing. Me personally, I tout myself as an independent because, to be quite honest with you, there's no point in being attached to the side, but it would take a different video for me to explain that one fully. She's one of the people whom I am aware of, and have been aware of for some period of time, who talks politics on YouTube, but I can't say I've watched every single video that she's ever put out. If a video catches my attention, I'll watch it. It's really that simple. And because I'm writing a book at this point and I'm a big film fan, I thought to myself, this isn't too far of a stretch to watch this and see what she has to say and see what her take on it is. Because it's, to me, this is basically what sounds like an opinion piece. You pose the question, you get people deliberating on the question, and you give your own piece, and you ask what people what they think. So I thought I'll do this video and see where it goes, see how it goes, and really take it from there. I will admit, I did see up to about the 357 mark when 2 pictures come up on screen. Then I decided to start and say, no, I'm going to do this a different way. So there's a whole rest of the video I haven't seen yet that I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm curious as to what our take is going to be. So nobody asked me to do this, I'm choosing to do this. So we're going to go ahead and see what the deal is. Although I might skip to a certain point because, to be quite honest with you, I don't really need to see the intro of the video that, so we'll see what bits I skip when I come to it. Okay, so here we go. And 3, 2, 1, play.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about how and why some women seem to love psychopaths, especially in entertainment. We're talking movies, books, and TV shows. Now, I feel like we all know that one girl, maybe she's really smart and beautiful, talented, and friendly, but when it comes to her taste in men, it's just yikes.
I could word that much worse for you. When it comes to certain women, as talented or as smart as they may be, they have an attraction towards the kind of men who are basically heroin to heroin addicts. That's the nicest way of putting it. Or I could put it much worse. You've just reminded me. There's a song by Bill Hicks called Chicks Dig Jerks. I highly encourage you to go and listen to that song if you really want to invest with this type of thing. So if you want to invest with this type of thought you're going with, Lauren, I highly suggest you listen to that song. I might even link it in the description for you to make it easier for you, and hopefully I remember it. In fact, I might write something down here, see if I can, see if this pen still works. It does. Just to remind myself at some point to bring this up because this will be some. I'd honestly love to get your take on this. I'd love to get your take on the song. I'm not even going to lie. Right, let's continue.
Big nope, and it doesn't matter how much this woman has going for her, how high her standards could be, she will zero in on the most toxic, possessive, creepy guy time and time again and be all, ooh, isn't he dreamy? He's so romantic. It's like...
Yeah, women have a knack for complete self-destruction. Men have it too. The trick is to figure out... basically, the trick is... I don't know what films you've seen. I have no idea what films you've seen. But let me use another film reference here, The Hunt for Red October. You've got to have, in The Hunt for Red October, you've got Soviet submarines and US submarines chasing down Red October because it's, I don't remember what the story is, but they're hunting this one submarine down and I think they're trying to destroy it. The Russians are. And they've got to use radar technology. The problem is that you've got to be smart and be evasive and things. The point I'm making, the reference it is here is the fact that if you've got your own personal radar technology in your head. In other words, you're aware of yourself to a degree. You should be self-aware of yourself. You sound like somebody who's self-aware. So if you're self-aware of yourself to some degree, you should be able to hone in on parts of yourself that don't work and say, you know what, this doesn't work, that's not right, I've got to change this. I mean, when you're young, if you've got it when you're young, you're either going to be sounding like, to quote a friend of mine, he turned around and told me, he says, when he was a teenager, he was basically an old fuck. So he was aware of himself back then, and he admits being basically more difficult to deal with than he is right now, and I consider him to be actually very okay to deal with at this point. So I can only imagine what it was like to deal with back then. But in terms of what you're saying here with women, I've seen women who make very bad decisions and go for the worst type of guys, and I'm sure there's a few reasons for that. Women tend to go for guys who appear to be the right type of guy, but then show up as being the very opposite type of guy. Because women seem to have this idea for a protector or an alpha, and they can't tell the difference between an alpha or an asshole. And it's funny how many people I bring this up to, and they seem to agree with me. But we'll see what you have to say about this.
No, are we thinking of the same person here? Because I'm pretty sure that guy has like 4 other girls in his freezer as we speak, and I really don't want to be one of those friends interviewed for a Netflix true crime documentary who's all, yeah, we knew he was bad news from the start of it, but she just wouldn't listen.
Yeah, that's the thing. See, sometimes telling women common sense is like talking to a brick wall. That's the truth. I mean, you see signs and you say to these people, look, you're with this person, this and that's happening. Even better, watching women make excuses for guys who are just crazy. Watch when they make excuses for them. It's hilarious. You know, oh, this guy that she's with, oh, she loves him so much and she cares so much. And she loves him so much that she lets him bruise her body from here all the way down to her stomach, and it's okay because it's just love. It's just a wee bit of a toxic love. Like, I mean, that's what men do, right? They batter women senseless, right? I mean, that shows love, right? Because these women apparently have no self-esteem, no confidence, and apparently no common sense whatsoever when it comes to these types of men. And I'm not going to lie to you, sometimes I've heard these women and wanted to slap the utter piss at them for being so stupid, but then you think, if this guy's battered her 4 times out of 5 days out of the week, then, I know it's a week, I know it's 7 days a week, but if you think 5 days, never mind. If you think 4 days out of 7, if he's battered her senseless, and then you think, well, what's slapping the piss at her going to do here? How's that going to fix anything? You know, some of these women, for some reason, have lacked a moral compass and a moral self-confidence, and I think a good bit of that comes down to how they're raised. It has to be. Because women don't want to be honest with themselves. So how are they going to be honest with you or anybody else? I mean, can you tell me, watching this, if you're watching this video, can you tell me that you're entirely honest with yourself? Because if you're self-aware, you've got to be honest with yourself. So I'm curious if you see yourself as being that honest, if you can be that honest. The less honest you are with yourself, the more trouble you're going to get into. And I know at least one person in particular who makes every wrong decision possible and makes every excuse in the book for it. And it's just tragic to watch, but I'll continue. As far as the signs go, yes, people see the signs and choose to ignore them because they think that person will see signs and walk away. And most of it doesn't happen. So, yeah, dumb people do dumb things. That's how I'm terming it.
People like that can be really frustrating, especially if you care about them because you don't want them to get hurt. But getting hurt is inevitably where their relationships lead, because that's just what happens when you date garbage.
Yes, I agree with you. You've got to ask yourself why they're attracted to what they're attracted to. Why are they so caught up in that person that they're involved with? If you can't answer that question, you'll get zero answers. But yeah, why are they so caught up in that person? It's because it could be, I know somebody who got charmed by somebody else and ended up marrying them, and then they turned on them. They just totally turned around and became basically what you could describe as being a violent, selfish, babyish-like psychopath to some degree. And it was scary hearing that story for them, because you think to yourself, wow, that's just terrifying that you actually went through that. Women get misled by guys. I've always said there's two types of guys in this world. There are honest men and charmers, and women like the charmers, they don't like the honest men. A woman will not be able to stand with an honest man. She hates honest men, right? Every woman I've met so far has hated two things in men: honesty and intelligence. You see how that's when you can tell that when you're honest with a woman, it's a bit like punching yourself in the face, right? If she's a friend, it's one thing. If she's with you, it's a whole other thing, because anything you say could be deemed as an attack. Women don't like honesty. They like to be dishonest with themselves. They like to be honest with themselves and certain things. They don't like to be honest with men, because if they were honest with men, a whole lot more arguments. And I honestly would rather be in a situation where I'm with somebody who's at least self-aware enough to know what they shouldn't be around me, and be smart enough to be around me in such a way where it's not hurting me, it's helping both of us. And me the same way. If you're self-aware enough, you'll benefit the two of you. You will not hurt the two of you, you'll benefit the two of you. But, let's continue.
Human garbage. And the funny thing is, the more I've thought about it and the more I've looked on in horror, as my gender consistently swoons over the worst, even borderline abusive, if not just flat out abusive characters, the more I've come to realize maybe, just maybe, we all have a little bit of that emotionally unstable whirlwind of bad decisions girl inside of us.
Yes, you do. Everybody does. You have that wee bit of, how can I possibly make every wrong decision in this situation today, kind of thing. Everybody's got it. The trick is figuring it out fast and basically stamping that out worse than people did when Saddam Hussein's statue was taken down in Iraq and they jumped in that. You've got to be able to do that with yourself. I'm going to say I admire your stance. It's good to see somebody who is at least saying this stuff. I hope you're actually practicing it in real life. It's good that you're aware that, and it's good that you're looking at women in your generation and maybe younger and saying that these women are destroying themselves. You've got to look at who's raising them. If you find out what the mothers are like, and I guarantee you a big portion of the dishonesty and I'm not saying I'm perfect, believe you me, I'm impatient, believe it or not, I'm very impatient as a person. I also hate dealing with other people's stupidity, and I hate myself when I end up making any kind of mistake that makes me think, you can better than this. I can be that, and yes, years ago I was much more self-loathing than I am now. I'm actually in a place where I'm much more appreciative of who I am and my abilities, but as far as anything goes, you've got to be aware of yourself enough to stamp that out and keep it stamped out, or fight it back for as long as you can. As far as the generation thing goes, a lot of people have been raised up to being twisted. They're raised up to be manipulative, twisted, you name it, and they don't see anything wrong. They just see it as being, they do it because they can. They do it because it's within that realm of thought they have to do everything they want to do and have no problems whatsoever doing it. So it's that type of thing. There's women who lie by nature just because they can. It is what it is. And they believe in, and twirling the locks and putting on the baby voice and being all cute, and they believe in that as one way of getting everything that they want. And it's, I honestly miss dealing with women on a regular basis who are like the women from 50 years ago, the past generations of women who were brought up with more of a moral compass and more of a moral integrity than women these days. But it's the generation we've got to deal with, and I believe social media's got a lot to play into it as well. So let's see what else you've got to say.
And I do know this seems like a random episode to make, but to tell you the truth right now, I feel like all news and...
Just on quickly what you're saying there, this is a random thing for me to do, so we're both on the same page with each other then. LOL. I know. Stupid, sad joke that I just chose to make there to try and connect with one thing you said, but yeah, everybody makes mistakes in these things, right?
Conversation. Literally my entire timeline is dedicated to a, let's just say, certain illness of Asian or...
It's fun, isn't it? I actually think the reaction to this virus has been quite funny worldwide. No people dying for it, the amount of people who are just raiding shops to nick everything they can. They're making thieves' lives hard, so they're...
Origin, which I cannot mention by name lest I be put in the algorithm gulag. And we actually did an episode about it last Wednesday, and it was not good.
Yeah, the reaction, I never saw what you did, but the reaction was obviously not good that you got, is how I feel about the joke I tried to make earlier, which backfired on me completely, because even as I said it, I went, this isn't working. Anyway, just thought I'd say it just to, you know, show what's going through my head at this point, concerning absolutely nothing about what you're saying.
Got punished even worse than when we dedicated an entire episode to sex robots, if you can believe it.
And however to sex robots, that is impressive. Well done.
Kind of been wanting to do an episode about this for a while now, so I figured, screw it, let's take this opportunity as the world seems to be crumbling around us to talk about two of my other interests besides politics combined, dating culture and media. But before we get into it, I have a quick message from our sponsor, Black Rifle Coffee Company. Evan Hafer founded Black Rifle Coffee Company.
Alright, I am not going to go through this bit here, I'm just going to cut straight past that, so...
And use promo code Lauren for 20% off your first purchase. So to get started, I feel like we need to talk about...
Just for a bit of context why I skipped that, I don't like coffee anyway, so to me it's poison. I have never liked... Honestly, white coffee, the most toned down coffee possible, is the only one I can even feasibly consider drinking. And even after drinking it, it's just like, ugh. I hate the stuff. It's just...
about the classic bad boy archetype, because I think the whole obsession some women have with literal psychos kind of stems from a perversion of that. It's not a secret.
Okay, women are attracted to an innate part of themselves, I think. They're attracted to something that describes who they are inside. There are women out there who show a far more manipulative nature than a lot of men do. Not to say men are not manipulative, there are men who are manipulative, but in my life I've met more men who are not manipulative than are manipulative. The men who are manipulative tend to try to force things to get the way they want. They tend to be control freaks. Women, on the other hand, I have met, I'd even say I'm related to at least one or two who are manipulative to a point. I'd say every woman has manipulative nature to them. The question becomes, how manipulative is she versus how unmanipulative is she? Is she somebody who's... I'll give you an example. I tell a friend this at one point. I says, when you've got women and manipulation, let's say you're talking about someone who is, say, either a psychopath, a narcissist, or a sociopath, right? The manipulation is going to be up about 99 to 100%, maybe round about that area there. Let's say you're talking about a lassie who's actually much more decent as a character and who's actually a better person. She might actually be weighed into about the 20% or lower or slightly higher. Give or take, depending on the person, is the manipulation level. That's what I believe. So I believe they're attracted to something that's already a part of themselves, or they see that these guys can get something that they want. And plus, notice something else. All the bad boys tend to be very good looking, which I believe is also a strong part of that. How many women have been attracted to very ugly looking bad boys? I'm honestly curious about that, because if the answer's just the same, it will show it's a mental thing and it's not a looks thing, but I still believe looks are a part of it.
That since the days of Marlon Brando and James Dean and heck...
This was in a bit of time I actually paused. Um, Marlon was, I think, bisexual, if I'm right, and James Dean was apparently gay, so it says a hell of a lot that women were into guys. It's a looks thing with women when it comes to that type of thing, but then again, they see danger and they seem to be attracted to it that way anyway, so it's women being excited by danger at a point, but then how many times they actually claim accountability for that danger? How many times they actually admit to it? That's a question I'd like to get the answer to. Anyway.
Probably even before that, I don't know much about entertainment in the 1800s. Women have loved the idea of a bad boy. A man who doesn't follow the rules, who sees what he wants and takes it, is confident, masculine, and isn't apologetic. Those types of characters are the backbone of countless cheesy romance novels and the wine-induced fantasies of moms worldwide.
Yes, which, in my opinion, is a complete tragedy, but in their opinion, is a complete success. That's how I see it. I mean, the thing is, they fantasize about something, but right, here's how I put this, right? Imagine the sky as the overview, like the bird's eye view and things. The sky is the overview, the ground is the reality, and underground is the details, where you deal with all that kind of thing, right? All these women are dealing with the overview thing. They're fantasizing about the overview. They're not dealing with the reality of the situation, what actually comes with it, and they're not dealing with the detail behind what makes the reality the way it is and what causes the overview to be a certain way. They're not dealing with this either to get to this or that. So because they're not down here dealing with this, and if they talk to women who have been with these types of guys, it would change up a lot. But even when they find out about this stuff, they still turn around and say, I can change him. They still have that mentality. Funny enough, it's not a Bill Hicks joke that plays into that. Anyway, I'll let you continue.
I know I can already see the comments that some of you might be in the process of typing out as we speak. Lauren, you women say you like bad boys, but then I get called a jerk when I do act like a bad boy. And yet you also say you're looking for a nice guy, but then everyone makes fun of nice guys. What do you women even want? Okay, fair enough. I can see why on the surface that might be confusing, but
actually, I'm going to interject here a wee bit and say one thing on top of that, which I'm going to bet you're not going to say, which is the perfect time to pause you. The nice guy thing is a joke. I'll even give a tip to any guys watching this. Don't be the nice guy. Seriously, don't. It is a joke. Right? Nice guys in society today tend to be manipulative. The very type of guy I say I've not run into very much, they tend to be manipulative guys who'll say whatever they can to get what they want out of women. That's it, right? They should basically aim to be a decent man, or a fair man. They should aim to be that, right? But it's true what you're saying there. Yes, a lot of men will say that thing, but I don't see women dealing with the behaviour. I don't see them changing it. So it all comes back to this. It all comes back to, and I'm curious what she's going to say, but women seem to want the masculinity of a man with the sensitivity of it. So they want, and I've not seen the film, but I'll need to go see it at some point. They want 9.5 weeks Mickey Rourke. They want the guy who's tough, got a backbone, is masculine, is strong, all that, with the sensitivity of that type of thing. That seems to be the thing they want for. I'm curious what she's going to say and see. I wonder what my take will be on it. So let's go.
Allow me to womansplain why actually that all does make sense and is consistent. First off, being a bad boy is not the same as being a jerk. I feel like quite a few guys think that all they need to do is be kind of rude or negative toward women, and then that should totally make them desirable. A bad boy.
I am desperate to get your explanation of this, because this is going to be hilarious. I guarantee it's going to be hilarious. A bad boy, that's... You clearly... I'm going to rewind that to make sure I heard what you said there. Seriously.
Does make sense and is consistent. First off, being a bad boy is not the same as being a jerk.
In what universe?
I feel like quite a few guys think that all they need to do is be kind of rude or negative toward women, and then that should totally make them desire.
To some guys, yes. To other guys, no. And I'm desperate to know what your explanation of this is. Desperate to know.
Desirable. A bad boy. That is not...
You obviously... I don't know how much time you spent running these types of guys. Because I've honestly... And this... it's going to sound wrong what I say here. Bad boys are basically the same type of guy you're referring to. You're making some type of difference between them, and I don't see it. I don't know what you're getting at, but I don't see it. So I'll just continue and we'll see what you're talking
On
about.
how that works. Bad boys, like I explained, are attractive because they're alphas, confident, they march to the beat of their own drums, and all those other cliches. That's not the same as being a douchebag. And
no, you're confusing the two. You're completely confusing the two. A bad boy. Well, it's in the title. It's in the title. Bad boy. Okay, it's in the title. Bad boy. Okay? Not good boy. Not decent boy. Not respectable. Not honourable. But I can't believe I'm hearing this for somebody like you. Seriously. Come on. So basically, to sum this up, women have used what we'll call mansplaining techniques. You've recategorized two sayings to be two different things. To explain something away, at least in your mind you seem to have done this, to explain away a concept which makes no sense to any rational man that's listening to it. What you're really doing is you're explaining the concept I'd explained previously in a different way because you're rationalised it as being that different way. That's how I see it. The bad boy and the jerk, as you say, or the I don't know how else to word it. I'll just use your terminology here, but they are basically the same thing. Bad boys tend to be right. Okay, let's say listen, right. Let's say the jerk, as you explained, was the guy who is the bad person, right? Okay. Yes, he's the corrupting soul. He'd be the control freak. He'd be all these types of things, right? The bad boy, in your opinion, would just be an insecure guy who you're just feeling sorry. I mean, as if you've locked up every mysterious guy in anime and you've shoved them in. I don't even know if you watch that. It's how I see it. You're basically thrown together. You've looked at the bad boy and you've said, right, the bad boy is this type of guy. The bad boy is the insecure guy who's just misunderstood. No, he's not. He's not even close. That's not a bad boy. You're right. Women who go with bad boys, the bad boys are manipulative in their own way, right? Yes, they're strong-willed in their own way and they're pursuing what they want to do and they're going for their own type of thing, that kind of thing. But they only care about themselves. They don't care about you. They're exactly the same as that other guy. The difference is it's just a different level of what you're talking about. It's just, imagine it from 0 to 100. Then it's a case of they're just much lesser on that degree, but not fully all the way down. It's that type of thing. It's not what you're trying to say. It's no two different types of guys. It's the same type of guy, just and based off your opinion, it's one's less worse than the other one. But what you're really getting is the integrity you want from the jerk, so to speak, is it's that type of thing exists. And the good men, it's just you deep down believe it's something you get from these types of guys. They're honourable to themselves. They're stubborn to their own type of mentality. That's who they are. They're guys with a backbone who are just hard-headed towards what they want. You could just be someone to get what they want. For example, bad boys don't marry women because they want to settle with that girl. They just see them as being a second mother who can hold the house and take care of their children while they go out and just sleep with whoever they want to. They're no misunderstood. I don't know what your definition is, but they're not these guys who are completely different. They're just no. So I want to know where you're going to go with this.
I know it's a lot easier to be a douchebag than it is to personify John Wayne's pure masculinity, but
at least he had some. At least he was the type of guy who had some level of honour attached to him. Was he the archetypal honourable guy for most guys to look up to? Probably not. I'd most likely look at guys for the 80s as, I'd actually look at Harry Callahan for Dirty Harry and say, that guy's actually much more honourable than what John Wayne was. Maybe, if I watched all the films, John Wayne as a hero type, he stood up for the values that he believed in, and that's the type of guy that is what... He's the type of guy I'd say that most men should at least aspire to kind of have as a blueprint type of thing. Not be exactly as, but kind of have that kind of ideal in place for your own type of thing. But, as a good example to look at, I'd say that's somebody for men to look at and say, that isn't a bad example to kind of is to start off from, is to say this is what you should aspire to become. But I'm going to rewind a bit to make sure I hear what you say, because I'm getting almost here.
Shays, that's not the same as being a douchebag. And I know it's a lot easier to be a douchebag than it is to personify John Wayne's pure masculinity, but still, don't be an a-hole and then wonder why women don't like you. Because
Right. I use the John Wayne example since you brought it up, but it's an ideal that men can aspire to accomplish in some way. Doesn't mean to say they're going to get it all. It doesn't mean to say they're going to be that way. It's a good thing for men to look at and say, okay, that's who ideally I would like to be at my very best. Right? Maybe that's what they'll think. There's guys out there who don't even look at John Wayne. They've never maybe even heard of him, but they're already doing what he's doing. And that's the thing. And just to say that ideal, it's basically what you're saying is that as much as these guys could be good and could exhibit all the behaviours of that type of thing, that even a John Wayne type would not be good enough for you. Sounds like that's what you're saying, but let's see.
as what women actually want is a bad boy with a heart of gold.
A bad boy with a heart of gold. Okay. A bad boy with a heart of gold. So kind of what I explained earlier. Right, lovely. Okay, so you were talking about that thing. You're talking about the guy with the masculinity traits and the rest of it. So the guy who's ruthless goes out there, protects and provides as a complete, is basically the biggest, or I'll be YouTube friendly here, a-hole possible to the rest of the world, but is caring about you oh so much. Yeah, let me tell you something about those types of guys. You're only there until they find something better. Enjoy the choice. I don't know if that's what you went for, but enjoy the choice if you did. If you've done that in your past and it's backfired, if you've not learned at that point, you're never going to learn. So,
sure, he's wild and untamed. Perhaps he dabbles as an amateur cowboy or sexy fireman in his spare time, but underneath his gruff exterior is a kind, caring, and compassionate teddy bear. It's not a lie to say that women do like nice guys, but the thing about the nice guys that people make fun of is that they're not really nice.
You've run into the wrong ones. I'll tell you something awkward that comes for every nice guy I've met. Something that's happened to them. Every nice guy I've met has several moments of idiocy where they believe that, and this is my thing, I tend to say sometimes the most inappropriate things at the worst times. Sometimes I kind of do it, I just like to take a reaction of people. Other times I'm saying it because something comes to mind. I'm sitting every day in the room is going, oh Christ, that happens. Right? These guys do have their own traits to them, but you're judging us based off of maybe your own bad experience of these types of guys. Yeah, here's the thing. I would much rather have friends who are decent guys than have friends who would, I don't know, chuck to the granny down a set of concrete stairs and kill her, and then have her put in a grave where Joe had only to rob it and steal the shit, but still have a heart of gold with you because what, they're psychopaths in disguise because of that. Bad boys use women a lot more than anybody else does, and they will argue and sympathise with these guys. So if that's the stance you're taking, you have no moral grounds to be deciding what a man should be. And you know, I can sit here and say what I think a woman should be. I can honestly say that I would like to see women have a lot more integrity and be more honest and that type of thing. But it's an ideal I don't think I'm going to see a hell of a lot from women in general. But it's funny how you're explaining this.
Being a passive-aggressive pushover who's only nice to a woman when you want something from her isn't actually being nice.
You're right, it isn't it? And I agree with you. And your definition of nice guys is completely different to what it used to be. It used to be a nice guy was considered to be a guy who was actually somebody who had a good moral code, who had a good conscience, who was that type of guy. It used to be the type of person who had that. Nowadays, it's basically just a guy who lies, and we'll say, it's basically a nicer version of a bad boy who will not do bad boy stuff just to get the girl and lie to her and say everything he can. And what's worse is these guys have the worst self-esteem possible and don't realise they've got to improve themselves to get to a better point. But that's up to them to fail and realise that in life. And then they'll blame women for their own failures. They'll not blame themselves and say, right, okay, see if they did the best they could to get to the best place possible and it still failed, at least they tried. At least nobody could hold that against them, not even you. But that's not what's going to happen, is it, Lauren? Besides, I'd put a dare down to you. I'd actually dare you to... I don't know, I think she's actually in a relationship with somebody. if she was single, and if I'm right, she's in a relationship with somebody, I would dare her to go out and talk to nice guys and see how things play out in conversation, just for that, right? Just to see how she would go with it and see how they would go with it. She was right about nice guys today because they'll basically use pick-up artistry, psychology to try and get women and basically lie and manipulate, because they don't see the honourable act as working, because women don't care about the honourable act. They don't care about men being honourable, so therefore they're not going to be honourable themselves. It's a bit like women changed the dating game up so much that men have realised that the only way to get women is to lie. Tell me I'm wrong. I dare you to tell me I'm wrong. Women don't like honourable men. They prefer dishonourable men over men who actually care about, let's say for example, in the bigger scheme overview of things, that are the family-based guys who want to have the children, have the wives, have the house. They don't want that guy, and if they do, I'm surprised, right? Please point me in the direction of they women. I want to see they women. And trust me, a whole load of men want to see they women. What we don't want to see are the women we get, right? I did 2 weeks work experience at a place, and there's a guy I get talking to, and I says to him, it's actually very hard to find women these days because the majority are either psychopaths, narcissists, sociopaths. And he says, it's exactly what it was. He says they're all fucking psychopaths. I laughed because what was I supposed to say back? It's hard to find the example of someone who fits the definition of what I'm looking for, especially in this day and age. And I'll be honest, and it saddens me to say this, the majority of women who should play into that, the majority of women who do play more into what I'm talking about, fall under religious territory. And the problem is that for a guy like me, I'm not very religious because I question things quite a lot. So with this type of thing, it's hard to... I get what you're saying. You're judging a nice guy, but you're judging it based off the worst possible circumstances. You're judging it based off the weaseling circumstances, not the good circumstances under which good men do thrive. Right? You're judging it after the worst, not the best. And you're judging bad boys after the best and not the worst for at least one aspect. So it's interesting where you're going with this.
Being kind, compassionate, and even chivalrous, that is genuinely nice, and women do respond to that.
Yes, they do, with the right type of guys that they want to respond to with. I'll be honest with you, I've been generous with a hell of a lot of women in my life. I've held doors for women. I have said hello to women, I've been nice to women, I've asked how their days have gone, I've done all that type of thing. And sometimes you get looks back because they don't like the look of you. They don't like who it is that's saying it to them. So because they don't like you, right. You take any girl that you know is a friend of yours, any one of them, right? And you test them between good-looking guys and not so good-looking guys. You put them against the same type of thing. They'll be friendly to the good. They'll be friendly to the decent. No, they'll be friendly to the ugly guy. They'll be friendly to him if he's nice to them. They'll be friendly to them. They'll be respectful. They'll react accordingly to that. But see, when it comes to the good-looking guy, they'll give a lot more than just respect. They will do that. It's just how it works. If I don't know who your friends are. I've not researched you well enough to know. I just know you've done something. You've done some videos and paid attention to them. But if you take any of your friends and you put them in that situation and you ask them to go, if you ask them to go on 2 dates, one with an ugly guy who's very respectful, all this stuff, right, and one who was good looking, all the rest of it, 9 times out of 10 they'll go for the good looking guy over the ugly looking guy, because it's not about being respectful, it's about more than that. Hence why what you're saying there doesn't always work. You can be the biggest gentleman possible and it still backfires, because that's not what women want, and they changed the game. So because they changed the game, the rules change. They can't complain about that type of thing, but they still do.
Especially when it's paired with the bad boy characteristics of things like leadership, confidence, etc., etc. So we all good on those concepts? Yeah? How?
I don't even think you know. I don't even think you have the basis for the concepts put down. You have your logic on it. You don't have if you were to be the archetypal example of what women are going for in this day and age, if you're to be the archetypal example, it's a tragic one. You're rationalising for you're looking at traits and you're looking at traits in some of these guys and you're saying, I like that, but it's not been exhibited in these guys, so I don't like it over here. So if it was, but think about this, even if the guys that were not, even if nice guys stopped the behaviour, stopped the weasel behaviour, and started exhibiting not just gentlemen, but also were being had the integrity and honour and all that type of thing attached, I think you would still reject it. Well, unless you're in a relationship with a guy, and that which means my point would be disproved there, but most women in general would still reject it. So even if you take the traits, and what you're really talking about is masculine traits and certain things, you're talking about the bad boy who's great with you and is basically a prick with the rest of the world. That's what you're talking about. And if you had gentlemen who were being gentlemen and had the integrity thing, it would be fascinating to see, because if you had that world where it was the, let's say, for example, just in case, the John Wayne type versus the Marlon Brando streetcar named Desired guy, I think most women would still be drawn towards the Marlon Brando type, although they would still be fascinated. They'd want the John Wayne guy to protect them and to save them for this other guy, but they'd still be more inclined to go back to the Marlon Brando type. That's how I see it anyway. That's how I think it would go.
However, just as some men can confuse what it means to be a bad boy, some women can as well, to terrifying results.
Including you.
And to illustrate what I mean, I'm going to use a franchise you're all probably familiar with, for better or worse, and that's Twilight. And yes, I do know quite a bit about the series because I have read all of the books and seen at least 2 of the movies that I can remember, the first one and the 4th one. I'm not proud of it, but I was a teenage girl at one point. Moving along. So in
Really? Okay. Twilight's your example here. Okay. I'm moving on. Twilight is basically the story of a woman who's attracted to a guy who is too old for her, and technically it's the relationship between a guy who can't age, vegetarian vampire, animal's blood, and so it's kind of like a relationship between, would you say, a pedo and something underneath? That would make sense, actually.
In case you've forgotten or tried to repress it, the infamous love interest in the Twilight series is a vampire by the name of Edward Cullen, and he has a lot of the qualities.
Replace him out with somebody ugly and we'll see if we get the same results for women with the same concepts attached. Would it be a loved guy who's here, or if, let's say, you replaced him with an Elliot Rodger type, would women still be as attracted? I don't think so.
That might make him your quintessential bad boy. He's kind of a loner, broody, assertive. He's also chivalrous, a gentleman, if you will. You know the drill. But what makes him worse than your average bad boy, and strangely enough, part of why I think so many girls just lost their gosh dang minds over this character, was that he just so happened to also be, an abusive maniac. Kind of.
Well, I'm glad we're kind of on the same page here.
The character of Edward Cullen is without question possessive, controlling, and pretty much a stalker. I mean, he was actually breaking into Bella's house, the girl in the story.
So basically a bad boy, right? I bet you're going to walk out and say, no, I'm wondering if you're going to go that way.
To watch her sleep. That is not romantic behavior. These are red flags. Period.
I agree.
How did you get in here?
The window.
Do you do that a lot?
Well, just the past couple of months. I like watching you sleep.
How did you know where I was?
I didn't.
Right?
What? Don't leave.
Did you follow me?
I feel very protective of you.
Not to mention the fact that Edward is also a vampire who was always talking about how much he wanted to kill and eat Bella, just made for a super weird relationship.
That's not what I'm laughing at. I'm actually thinking to myself, imagine that was Elliot Rodger in that position instead of him. Would she have stayed? Hell to the no. And would she have stayed? No. Would any woman stay in that situation if the guy was much uglier and did exactly the same type of thing? No. So, yeah, this is basically creepy behaviour, but it's...
relationship dynamic.
I wanted to kill you. I've never wanted a human's blood so much in my life.
I trust you.
Don't.
There is
Oh shit, that's funny. This actually should be a comedy rather than a serious drama. It's so funny. See what he's exhibiting. It's not just creepy stalker behaviour. I would go as far as saying that in the real world, a guy like him would be viewed as a bad boy. They really would be, because he goes after her, does his own thing, is strong-willed, everything she's describing except the gentleman. You get what I'm talking about, it's that kind of thing. And it's the worst example of a relationship.
a difference between being passionate and being possessive, between being assertive and being controlling, between being a strong alpha who's in control of the situation versus being just literally dangerous and potentially violent
Do you even know what an alpha is? I'm curious.
toward your partner. And we have a lot more to get to, but first I want to tell you guys about Parler. Conservative voices are being silenced daily by left-wing tech companies who are profiting off exploiting your privacy and then who silence your voice when you say something they don't agree with. More and more, our most important ability, the ability to speak freely, has come under assault in places that were designed I was young.
Okay, all right. For anybody who is interested in that, you can go back yourself and have a look at it yourself and judge for yourself. I'm just here for what she's saying about this.
Free. I was in high.
But just so you know, I am not against the idea of... I'm against censorship. Let's just say that. So I am not for people being censored. I'm for freedom of speech. But my intention with this video isn't what she's referring to there. So if you're somebody who's watching this and wondering from my take on it is, I believe in freedom of speech. I don't believe in censorship. But anyway, back to what she's saying. So,
School or maybe middle school. I don't know. I was young when the Twilight books first came out, and I didn't really notice anything wrong with them at the time, aside from Bella as a protagonist, which is super annoying and whiny. But as I got older, by the time the movies came out, that's when I really realized how the series was basically romanticizing some really toxic behaviors. And from a psychological...
Yes, it was. And to be quite honest with you, it seems that some women deep down love that toxic behaviour. That is what it is, and the only thing that's going to change this thing you're talking about is women's behaviour towards it. As soon as they start rejecting it, the literature will change. But I think there's a fantasy that women have of having the wrong type of guy for the wrong type of reason, or for their type of reasons, but no the guy's type of reason. You'd never explore that either. It's wrong.
Standpoint, I guess I understand, in theory, why women would be attracted to the psycho-possessive boyfriend character. It's kind of similar to why women would be attracted to the bad boy persona, just taken all the way to the extreme. I mean, who wouldn't want a boyfriend who's madly in love with them? Maybe who's so head over heels that the mere thought of you talking to another man sends him into a jealous rage.
Well, here's the thing with me. I'll reveal a wee bit about myself here. I don't respond to that type of thing for women. If a woman tries to get me jealous with her being around a man, I'll just walk away. If you feel the need to test me that way, I'm done. I am not. My thing is, I don't aim to test anyone I'm with, so why should they test me? And if they're testing me to say, is he alpha enough to come and fight for me? I'm not going to do that. If you go up to a guy and you cock tease him to try and get me into an envious rage and he beats the shit out of you, I'm going to look at it as being, you honestly set yourself up in a situation that backfired on you and you expect me to feel sorry for you. That's not happening. Is he wrong for doing what he did? Yes. Did you do something wrong to get him to go that way? Yes. May sound extreme, but I don't have sympathy for women who set men up in those situations. I'm not saying that's what she's saying, but for women who set men up into jealous rages for that type of thing, why should I have sympathy for you if you don't have any regard or any respect for any man in that position that you apparently love and care about? Because if you loved and cared, you wouldn't try and get them jealous. It's one thing to be misunderstood in a situation, another thing to totally rip the piss and do something stupid. Anyway, let's continue.
Or who is so concerned about your safety that he just wants to, control every aspect of your life. I mean,
I've seen control freaks at work, and believe me, there's nothing hilarious, there's nothing fantastical about it. I once had someone threaten me because I spoke to their partner and told them that if they spent 1 hour around me with that behaviour, we wouldn't have lasted the time. And I was threatened by the so-called friend. So yes, control freaks can have that effect on people. The violence didn't take place, but aye. I was told to be nice to somebody who was manipulating a friend. Go figure, huh?
I mean, it's flattering at the very least, right? From a biological, evolutionary standpoint, I get it. I mean, it's commitment. Women love commitment, but that doesn't mean...
Women love commitment. Yeah. Women, oh by the way, after talking to somebody today, women should also, if a woman makes a choice to marry a man that is actually wrong for her, but she doesn't know at the time, and she marries the guy and she's with him for a period of time and she's feeling for somebody else, because she made that choice to commit to that man, in the eyes of God she is a sinner if she leaves him and goes for somebody else and even wants to marry that other man. She's a total sinner. Quite interesting how you brought the commitment thing up, and that came to mind for me. But another fascinating thing I'd like to hear what your take on that is.
Those behaviors are okay because there are healthier ways to exhibit those aspect of your life. I mean, it's flattering at the very least, right? From a biological, evolutionary standpoint, I get it. I mean, it's commitment. Women love commitment, but that doesn't mean those behaviors are okay because there are healthier ways to exhibit those sentiments that aren't abusive.
You're right. But you're talking from an intelligent, self-aware standpoint. There are millions of women for by you who just don't. You can't, right. I've told people this, don't attach your logic to anyone else. It's pointless. You're doing the same thing here. You'll attach your logic to others and say this is wrong type of behaviour, and because I think it's wrong, you should think it's wrong. People don't always see it that way, so you've got to explain it in such a way where they do.
And I guess you could argue that just because some women like the idea of Edward Cullen or the book, that doesn't mean they'd actually want to date Edward Cullen or a guy like him in real life.
You ever heard of Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy was a psychopath who was able to net women. He was able to bring them in. He was able to rule them in. He ended up sexually assaulting, beating to death, raping, murdering these women. When police caught him finally and questioned him, they found out, well, he revealed up to 30 murders. I have a friend, the same friend, one of the friends I was explaining about earlier, who believes there may have been more than that because of who Ted Bundy is. Ted Bundy's a guy who had a look to him women were attracted to, and he was also someone who had zero empathy whatsoever for other people. When you talk about bad boys, I tend to think about him. But the difference is, and this is where it comes different with the bad boys, women will rationalise an abusive upbringing that somebody may have gone through to make them who they are. They'll rationalise it and say, oh, he went through this and he went through that and he was beaten and he was this. They'll go through all this stuff and say, that these guys went through this type of thing, so therefore I sympathise and I feel sorry and I can change and I can fix. You can't fix anything. End of argument. Only they can fix themselves and you can't do anything about it. Deal with it.
And yeah, I think hopefully for most women that's probably accurate, but for others, and I've seen way too many threads about this, I know they would genuinely be attracted to what are, in reality, super disturbing traits. And it's not just young or teenage girls who have taken the bad boy trend to the extreme, what I like to call the psycho boy trend. Grown women do it too, and we saw this in the huge success that the 50 Shades of Grey series.
Yes, a complete abomination of a story, which was just stupid.
had. And if you weren't aware, 50 Shades of Grey is pretty much Twilight, but instead of vampires, you have BDSM.
Oh look, here's a rich billionaire type. And that rich billionaire type who's got everything going has a dark secret. But this one girl is going to see past all the problems with him and she's going to fix him. Give me a break. These guys honestly make choices to be who they are. So while it's the thing is, right, you've got people out there who fight against inner urges to be a certain way. They do that, right? There are men who fight against inner urges to be the way they are. Okay. There are men out there who fight the urge to kill. There's men out there who fight the urge to rape. There's men out there who fight the urge to do very bad things. And some of them fight it their whole lives and succeed, and some don't. When it comes to the type of men you're talking about, they have choices to make. And in some cases, they make the wrong choice. I should mention, I keep looking after this side because I'm using my screen to judge, the background type of thing. So, yeah, they make choices, and women fantasize about the man who they can save. It's ultimately a woman who can save the man. It's always that type of thing, and it's a complete joke.
And that's not a joke. I wish it were, but 50 Shades of Grey was literally originally written as like X-rated Twilight fanfiction. Any problems with the male love interest?
What a surprise. A woman fantasizing about a psycho loving her and being a dick to the rest of the world. What a surprise.
Interests which were present in Twilight are like 50 times worse in 50 Shades of Grey. Christian the Edward X-rated Twilight fanfiction. Any problems with the male love interests which were present in Twilight are like 50 times worse in 50 Shades of Grey. Christian the Edward equivalent.
I should actually mention at this point, if you look at any female author who's ever written a book and she's put something like this in, it says more about her than it does about anything else. So obviously E.L. James has some fascination towards this type of thing, and she's obviously either not admitted to herself or she's interested enough, but she's, I don't know, I'm thinking you don't throw something like that in unless there's some type, unless you're intrigued by it to some degree to explore it. So that's what's going through my mind with that. Plus E.L. James just seems to me like she's following up on bad literature type things. She'd made money from it obviously because women are basically desperate in the marriages which they get into, and men are working that much or don't read the signs and they can't, they're not dealing with the women the way they should be. They're not being as romantic as they should, and that's really down to them. And that's the marriage that's got to be sorted in its own means rather than trusting literature to get you to that point.
Actually enjoys hurting Anastasia, the Bella equivalent, in ways so messed
A beautiful couple, what a surprise.
up, even the BDSM community had to come forward.
I'd be interested in seeing a story where it's an ugly couple with this. I actually would like to see that play out.
And say, this is not okay. This is abuse. We do not condone this. And not only does Christian have this sadistic side in the bedroom, but even in the rest of their relationship, he's so controlling and abusive that actual survivors of domestic abuse boycotted the film.
That is terrifying. But hey, who cares about that, right? It's just a story. It's just a book. I mean, come on. What's to stop a woman fantasizing about a complete psychopath doing these things? I mean, come on. You're looking too serious on it, surely. And then domestic abuse victims do that. Hey. I mean, it just surprises me sometimes how some people will go this far for this type of thing, and it's playing something to stream. I mean, I watched 45 minutes worth of the first film and I couldn't watch any more. I just couldn't do it. I never read the books, but from what I heard and from what I understood, I just went, nah, not my thing.
It's not the idea of BDSM and sexual
is abuse. We do not condone this. And not only does Christian have this sadistic side in the bedroom, but even in the rest of their relationship, he's so controlling and abusive that actual survivors of domestic abuse boycotted the film.
It's not the idea of BDSM and sexual liberation that bothers Tanisha Martin.
My tastes are very singular.
Instead, it's the message.
The idea that a man can push and pressure and eventually a girl's going to give in and she's going to like it. And also the really dangerous idea.
You mean bad boy behaviour? I mean, it's a certain men who get away with it and certain men that don't. And that's even without a Weinstein-style contract involved.
that compassion for an abuser's
Oh, by the way, don't confuse me. I'm not a guy who's resentful of women. I'm honestly not. It's when you analyse the behaviour of others and you have to try and interpret in such a way, you may sound that way, but it's really not where I stand. I got on fine with. There's a lot of women there's women I'm friends with. I'm not in a relationship, to be honest with you. But there's women I'm friends with, and there's other women I get along with, and I'm absolutely fine being respectful with women. I don't mind it. I'm fine with them. I can talk. I'm okay with them. What I don't like, and I don't like this in men either, is behaviour that's exhibit that plays itself through us. I don't like it.
past, love, and obedience will eventually change an abuser, and you'll end up with a happy ending.
Tanisha speaks from experience. These books remind her of a closed chapter in her life.
The more I heard about them, the more I thought, this sounds like the type of abusive situation that I was in.
How dare she get offended by something that makes absolute sense to get offended by, so that an author can make money? How dare she get offended by that? I'm joking, obviously, but you get what I mean. Imagine E.L. James sitting there with all that money in her bank, and she's sitting there going, I did such a great job, and there's women out there getting re-traumatised because of what she wrote. Aye.
Get that sometimes a book can just be a book, or a movie is just a movie. It can just be entertainment. It doesn't mean that you need to actually condone the behaviors that are in it. Maybe you simply find the content interesting, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love documentaries.
It's one thing to be entertained by something, it's another thing to try and rationalise wrong behaviour. And I say right, there is right and wrong behaviour. It's one thing to say, oh look, this behaviour over here is bad, and another thing to say, oh, it's not as bad as you think. And that's honestly what some entertainment does today. So
About murder, but at the same time, I do not support murder. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't read or enjoy 50 Shades of Grey. You do you. But honestly, the fact that it's marketed as romance instead of a dark fiction thriller
or mental torture. I think that would work.
detailing abuse, to me, that's worrying.
Actually, mental physical torture might be the thing. Mental, physical, emotional torture might be a better genre to put it in. Or torture porn. That's a good gene. Aye, that'll work perfectly. Then it'll end up in and I've no desire to go watch this film again. It'll end up in the Serbian film area. And there's another one I'm not going to mention either, so.
And in a more contemporary example of women swooning over psychopaths, we have the show You on Netflix, which currently has 2 seasons out, and like Twilight and 50 Shades, is based on a book. But unlike Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey, I actually do like You. I think it's a good show. It's interesting because it's one of those shows, like Dexter, that comes from the perspective of an anti-hero. The main character, Joe Goldberg, stalks women, breaks into their houses, completely invades their privacy in pretty much every imaginable way, and is also not afraid to kill people if necessary, so.
You've got some weird things going on with you, Lauren. There's absolutely no two ways about that. Anti-hero, explain the anti-hero part. He's not afraid to kill people. What, people who cause her problems? Is that what you're saying? I've not seen it. I've seen it advertised. Does he kill people who try and force themselves onto her? And you look at that part and say, oh, it's still cute what he's doing. Is that what it is? I'm honestly wanting to know. But I don't know if you can explain it. I want to know what if that's what it is. But that's a bit like saying, well, he did all this bad stuff, but this one makes him so nice. I've heard women make these types of arguments before on this type of thing, and it's terrifying. You can get the point where you're going, you need to stop making this 10% of the good they did, or good they did, give or take what the situation was, versus this 90% of absolute abusive behaviour and just creepiness that they did. It's certain people rationalise for the weirdest reasons.
That's fun. He's a full-on creeper, and here's a clip of the show's trailer in case anyone hasn't seen it.
I believe in love at first sight. But love is tricky. There's scary people in the world, Beck.
I'm on to you.
Jealousy got the best of me.
What I feel is a
He's such an anti-hero, isn't he, Lauren? Unless you can actually tell me what the anti-hero part is in this video.
key difference between the way You was written versus Twilight and 50 Shades is that the author knows that Joe is not a good guy. He is disturbed. He is a criminal. He's toxic. He hurts people. Unlike Stephanie Myers or E.L. James, who wrote the other book.
You said he was an anti-hero, and you haven't explained the anti-hero aspect yet. And that's E.L. James and Stephen. Okay.
Caroline Kepnes isn't trying to portray Joe, who's a creeper psychopath, as just your average, dark, brooding, mysterious bad boy. Sure,
You wouldn't term him as being that way? Oh. What do you expect? This is, I don't know.
he has some issues, but if you love
Issues. Okay.
him enough, you can change him, ladies. You, as a book and series, is very aware that its subject matter does include abuse, so I don't blame the writers involved with that as pushing the whole psycho boy trend, but what should scare people is how some fans, despite it being crystal clear on the show that this guy Joe is a serial killer stalker, there are still some women who are thirsting after him, and strangely enough,
Swap him out with an ugly man and see if you get the same results. That's my suggestion. Then we'll see if it's still the same women listening. They're seeing a good-looking guy and that type of thing, and in their brain they're connecting the pieces up and saying that's what romance is, because they've been rewired to believe that's the type of thing that should be what they're looking for, when it really isn't what they should be looking for. I get certain behaviours that are attached to even good men. For example, I was actually watching earlier on the day, I was watching a film, an old, very old film, I recommend you watch it. It's To Have and To Have Not, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall. Watch that film and take note of Humphrey's behaviour from the very beginning to the end, right? He's a man who's out to make money for himself and have his fishing business and all the rest of it, and just do his type of thing. But at some point, his smarts, which he's used for his own self-use, which I can't really hold that against the guy, have to play in for a bigger picture type thing that he doesn't fully understand. So I recommend you watch it, because you'll understand then what good men using the kind of darker side behaviour is. And I wouldn't class him as being a bad boy or an evil man. He's just a man trying to survive in the world and making his own way, and he's just smart enough to know how to do certain things and how to calculate his way through certain things. I would actually view him as being a good man with an edge to him. I don't view that as being what you're considering it to be.
the character Joe became such a popular celebrity crush for women to have that eventually the actor who plays him did have to address the fact that no, Joe was not in fact Mr. Right. In
My other man for that, I really do. Good on him.
a piece covering Penn Badgley, the actor who plays Joe, E! News wrote, on Twitter, a quick scroll through the show's hashtag and you'll see a never-ending inventory of memes, but you'll also come across one or two tweets romanticizing the character, to which the 33-year-old actor has been quick to remind fans that Joe Goldberg is a murderer and, well, not much of a good person. On the note of what the public's obsession with Joe Goldberg says of us as a society, Badgley adds, first of all, we're not yet at the stage collectively where we're able to watch anything and not ultimately glorify it. The way we capture things on camera is a bit surreal.
Sorry. First of all, we're not yet at the stage collectively where we're able to watch anything and not ultimately glorify it. You can put things on screen and not glorify them. Of course you can do that.
It's made to be compelling in a way that may not be exactly like real life. In a way, everyone is always being toyed with. I would love to believe that the attraction to these crazy characters is just a little indulgence in fantasy, but I don't know. Women writing prisoners, including or even maybe especially convicted killers, is an established thing, which I guess if you're a guy is maybe good, because hey, if you ever get lonely or crave female attention, at least you're just a triple homicide away from your very own fan club. I suppose if I had to sum up the moral of this episode, it's that abusive characters, boyfriends, love interests in general, ain't it, ladies? Flowers are a much better way than stalking for a guy to show you that he's interested. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this, and as always, I would love to know what you guys think. Why do you think so many women are taken in by these psycho-possessive stalker types, especially in media? And ladies, the truth, Have you ever had a crush on the likes of Edward Cullen, Christian Grey, Joe Goldberg, or a similar character? I promise. We won't judge here. That's it for now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Well, if you watch this, you'll know exactly what I think. Women are attracted to what they think a real man is, but let's face it, women don't know what a real man is. And if you're talking about today's generation, if they're not raised by good fathers, they will not have a clue what a good man is. This is why I think religious women tend to have more of an idea, because they'll be raised around dads who are more likely to care about them and not want them exposed to certain things. So I can believe that would be a thing with them. I'm not saying it's every single dad, but it's a good area to grasp straws at and say this might exist over here. So, I would say deep down biologically the answer lies there, that women are more attracted to men who are because it comes down to the hunter-gatherer thing. Women are attracted to men who will provide for them and protect them. That's what they're attracted to. And if they see this in the bad boy, they see us in him, they see us in the bad boy, the psychopath. But what they don't get is this: to him, you're not first choice. You're just an option. You know, when it comes to the guy who really cares, chances are that you're a first-time option to him. But the problem is, that's the thing. Nice guys need to be run men who are actually masculine to pick up on what it takes to be a man. They need to be real men in the long run in order to understand what it is to be a man, and then they'll have a better idea. Then they'll be able to be the man they need to be. You can get a good man who is taking all these traits she's talking about as being bad boy traits, and you can have them be a gentleman with this type of thing. It doesn't make them bad boys. It basically makes them what a man should be, the idea of a man. It makes them that kind of thing. And I'm sure there's men out there who do that. I'm pretty sure there's guys out there who do that. And when those guys are around other men who are not like that, those men who are not like that want to be that way, especially if those guys are actually decent men who just don't have much direction in life. So it's possible for those guys to be that way. But women are just attracted to what they think they should be attracted to, versus, because I believe television, film and all the rest of it is teaching them what they should be attracted to versus what they actually... It teaches them what to be attracted to, what they want them to be attracted to versus what they actually should be attracted to. So it's that type of thing. Posh, while we're here, I'll show you something, because you were talking about difference between the two men. Right. I'll bring something up here that's going to be fascinating. Right, let's see. That's what I'm looking for. Right, this is the very scene I'm looking for. Okay, right. I'm going to get copyright struck over this, but you'll get what I'm getting in a second. You brought up John Wayne? I've got a film for you might want to see. Right, for sake of context, Jeremy Stewart, will represent the weaker man in society. John Wayne will represent the upstanding man in society, and Lee Marvin will represent the bad boy. Let's go.
Rance, when you finish the dishes, will you help Allie wait on tables? Sure.
Papa, washing dishes is enough for him. Who ever heard of a man waiting on table?
Well, no, that's all right. I'd be glad to help. Be glad to.
I thought we was busy.
Technically speaking, in that last part there, the man being spoken down to by the women in his own restaurants, fascinating, but it's also a telltale sign of what we're facing in society today. But let's go. This is obviously the restaurant, the pub, and you're going to see everything take place. Oh, look at that look of love in her face for wee Marvin the bad boy. My God, she's so drawn to the guy. Oh look, it's John Wayne sitting, not giving a care to the world, and he's sitting with a guy who could be drunk, who knows. And he doesn't look impressed either, so yes, you know. Wow, they just misunderstand the bad boy.
Well, these steaks look done just right for us.
For context, that's the sheriff of the town. Watch what he does.
You cowhands ain't no hurry to eat, are you? Well, are you?
I guess we could do with another drink.
My God, such beautiful bad boy behaviour. I can't understand why people hate these guys. I mean, just look at that behaviour. It's just women must be just ever themselves gunning for these guys. Is what?
Well, now, that's right neighborly of you, partner. Especially after all the lying things I hear folks been saying about Liberty Valance.
For context's sake, the guy sitting next to John Wayne is the local newspaper man in town, so hence why he's saying that.
Wait a minute.
And here we go.
One of Mama's pies for Tom.
There's a man who's into his torture porn.
Looky at the new waitress.
That's my steak, Valance.
And you heard him, dude. Pick it up.
Oh, Pilgrim, hold it. I said you, Valance. You pick it up.
3 against 1, Donathan.
My boy.
Right. There's a shot I've missed here, but basically what you get is the way a man ordinarily should be, helping up with John Wayne. You get the bastard on this side, played by Lee Marvin, and in the middle you get basically what we're going to call the beta in the middle. So, just so you know, this is how basically this is the setup of how
Boy, Pompey.
Of how things are playing out.
The kitchen door.
Right. Perfect. In society today, you've got, and John Wayne would represent the good man. He would represent mostly the beta, and he would represent the people that Lauren Chen believes are attractive, or is deep down trying to rationalise for it, as you saw in the video. Although I guarantee she's going to say I'm wrong.
I'll get it, Liberty.
I'm going to pause in there for one reason. The best way to deal with the type of behaviour these guys exhibit is an extreme reaction to it. And you see what happens there. And I know it's in a film, but one should deliver somebody who is out of control a taste of control. They tend to back off and not like it.
I said you, Liberty. You pick it up.
Right, before this kicks off, this is ideally how things should be ideally. You've got the good man here who's basically trying to get him to pay the consequence for what he did to his food by tripping him up. So you're going to see standoff here. There's nobody backing down, right? Nobody backing down whatsoever. And then you're going to see how he's going to react to the situation that he set up for him to answer to, that he honestly, let's face it, doesn't want to answer to.
What's the matter? Everybody in this country killed crazy? Here! There! Now! It's picked up!
Why don't you get yourself a fresh steak on me? Show's over for now.
Try it, Liberty. Just try it.
Well, get out!
I will pause here just to say this man here is one of the best villains that ever acted on screen. My God, such sexy behaviour from Lee Marvin. I mean, Christ, I can't imagine how women wouldn't be attracted to that, you know? A man who just walks in, forces people off a table, starts messing around with the staff in the place, and then almost gets into a violent altercation when somebody stands up to him. I couldn't imagine how women, and then he acts like a Wayne when it doesn't go the way he acts like a child when it doesn't go the way he wants. I mean, God, that's just great bad boy behaviour, isn't it? You know, but what I'll do is I'll very quickly reference something else while I'm here, and after that we'll bring the video to an end. It's what's the video I'm looking for here? Let's see if I can find it. Aha, right. I'll remind myself that that is there, and to put it in the description. I will also remind myself while I'm here to put this one in as well. And if I don't put it in the description, come and see them anyway, because they're absolutely hilarious. But it was interesting because when I ran across, I didn't expect it to go the way it went with this video. I thought it was actually going to stick more to just the literature thing, but obviously it devolved into something else. But this is the more like opinion based one versus the reaction type thing. But just so you know, if you're watching this at this point, Lauren, I don't actually dislike you as a person. I've no reason to dislike you. I disagree with your opinion on the matter. You need to understand that as a man hearing a woman saying that this is the considered to be behaviour. That this is the behaviour that when women look at men and see this type of thing, that it's just men being, they look at it as being masculine behaviour. Well, again, I don't know if you're in a relationship with that or not, but that type of behaviour isn't the type of behaviour that makes a man a man. It's just that type of guy is a man who's out for himself, and that's how other men would interpret that type of behaviour. It's just a single-minded approach to accomplishing what they want, not a guy who cares about his family. And the truth is, some men who care about their family seem weaker than other men who don't, right? The type of men who don't end up in long-term relationships or just end up in a number of different relationships tend to be guys who are single-minded or control freaks or psychopaths or these types of guys. They usually are these types of guys who are just going for what they want. But if even somebody like you is finding it as attractive, or your friends are finding it attractive, it says a lot about what it says. Right, okay, you point out the traits, but it doesn't say that you have learned what to look for in men. Basically, what you're saying is that most of these bad boys exhibit the type of behaviour you like. I don't even know if you're with a fella and you're with him, does he exhibit this type of thing? Does he have it? Is he the type of guy who's got that type of thing? I'd be curious to see. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. And if he doesn't, how do you feel about that? Do you think it's wrong? Please let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear it. But as much as I disagree with your opinion, it's interesting how you rationalise certain things. For example, I've heard the term bad bitch being used to describe independent women. Independent women are not bad bitches, they are independent women. They're women who are working and living by themselves. I'm imagining that to be the case. And they are doing whatever they are doing to make sure that the lives they're living are the best they can be for themselves. But a bad bitch is basically somebody who will end up in a prison who's female. That's not somebody who... Bad bitches tend to be women who I would interpret as being the ones I'd actually avoid in life, because what's the point? They're just going to give you hassle. So what's this? Why even bother with them? But if you did watch this video, if you did watch it all the way to the very end, which I'd appreciate if you did that, at least comment back to me and at least tell me what you think of my opinion based on your opinion. I'd be more than happy to have a discussion on the subject. However, I've never live streamed this channel, so that'd be interesting. But I wouldn't mind discussing it with you and having a talk and seeing how we differ, seeing how we stand, and take it from there. But in the meantime, I just thought I'd take a chance for that video because it looked interesting, and I'm glad I did. So it'll be interesting to see where where you would stand after seeing the video and anything else, but we'll just leave it at that point. But hi, if anyone else that has watched this video, please like, subscribe and share the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.